if they could fool the elect, they would. But they can't fool the elect, because we are aware of this devil and his schemes. Make sure this recording. And another brother already put it up, man, because it looks like he was working out like I am, you know, and seen this on the TV there, or it might still be his in-home TV, but nonetheless, though, you know, we see a false flag, we report on it, right? Because definitely the Israeli state is losing. They're losing big time, the propaganda, they're losing the narrative, but if they do a drone strike against California, you know, if the Israelis do it to blame Iran, that could draw people into the war and want to fight, because right now nobody really wants to fight for the Israeli state.
Shalom, Israel. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders and bishops and great millstone. And peace and salutations and peace and grace to the whole select. Shalom. Back with just a quick hit, breaking news. As you see on the screen, the latest in the headlines, the FBI is, they're warning, here in California, they're warning officials that Iran could, you know, use drone attack, you know, here in California, and even on the U.S. soil. But, you know, we're here. You know, we are in World War III, but we know the full all-out war ain't coming to that microchip comes, that MOTB, where no man can buy or sell. That when they make that mandatory worldwide, that's when all-out war is coming. You know, the war of Armageddon. But leading up until that, tribulation like the world has never seen. And the Lord prophesied that he was going to destroy this place, the U.S., because this place is spiritually known as Babylon. You know, Sodom and Egypt through the Spirit. So this is a countdown. And through prophecy from what the Lord said, you know, how he's going to, what is that? Just this coming out raw. What is that? Revelation, the 18th chapter. He said he was going to destroy this place in 1 hour because this place is going to be hit by thermonuclear missiles. So they, you know, all these nations going to shoot missiles on this place. And what else in Revelation? The 18th chapter, I think too. The planes coming in one day. I'm just roughly paraphrasing. Like I said, this is just a quick hit. And Jeremiah 51, how the Lord is going to send fanners unto Babylon. Fire shall burn her gates. I'm just roughly paraphrasing it. Yeah, the Lord told us to pray and watch. We're in that time, and at any moment, you know, things could kick off, man. So, you know, the Lord, you know, he used that parable, you know, about watching, about a man, you know, breaking into your home. If you watched, you know, when if you would have been watching, you would have known when the thief was coming. You know, roughly paraphrasing it. And the Lord is coming like a thief in the night. This is why you got to continue to watch, because it's about to hit the fan, man. It's about to hit the fan. But I'll leave it there. And you know, the warning is went out. It's went out. And the Lord told you he's not holding back his word no more. Shalom.
So, like everything else, though, you know, and we report false flags, you know. Hey, man, you know, so here it is. Here's the alert is referred to, right? And it's on every major news station. FBI warns pigs in California that Iran wants to retaliate for the U.S. terror attacks by launching drones against West Coast, according to an alert reviewed by ABC News. And ABC News claims to be the exclusive to have the story. It's bullshit, but nonetheless, though, you know, we know that indeed they are trying to ramp this thing up to gain support, because people do not want to fight for the Israeli state, and so they want to pull off a false flag. And believe it or not, Newsom actually he has come publicly to say this ain't happening. FBI warns of Iranian drone threat to California. Gavin Newsom downplayed the alert, says he is not aware of any imminent threats of this type. So that's something he said publicly, that he, you know, hadn't received any threats whatsoever. You know, so this is a false story, a false narrative, but it's to get everybody to support the war. FBI warned authorities in California that Iran had planned drone raids launched from an identified vessel off the west coast, according to alert level reviewed by U.S. media outlets. Local officials, however, have cast doubt on the warning, saying it is unverified. According to ABC News, this memo was distributed to California apartments in recent days, through the contents first surfaced publicly on Wednesday. So, like everything else though, California Governor Newsom responded to the alert, saying he remains in constant coordination with security and intelligence officials on threats to the state, including those tied to the Middle East conflict. While we are not aware of any imminent threats at this time, we remain prepared for an emergency in our state, he wrote on X, meaning that it's highly unlikely. We already know that Iran doesn't have long-range weapons, and they keep on telling you the same bullshit every day, right? I mean, how do they sell 9/11? They sold 9/11 because of a terrorist threat, right? We got to go to war with Iraq because there's a terrorist threat, you know, because Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. We got to go to war with Iran because they're threatening retaliatory strikes, and nobody actually supported the war before it happened. They wasn't, you know, they thought it was a bad idea. So like everything else though, you know, you got quite a few videos here, so we're going to play some of these. You know, just pretty much though, we're all calling it false flag. It's a false flag coming. So plan B, cause a false flag, as this guy is going into.
Your World War III update. I'm just going to be blunt. The Middle East is in flames, and Iran is fighting like hell. Okay, they are fighting with everything they got.
Fighting for survival.
And this is making the administration nervous, and I think they're about to resort to Plan B, which is to execute a false flag on American soil, which will be promptly blamed on the Iranians in order to justify a boots-on-the-ground operation in Iran. Now, look, I usually save this conspiratorial stuff towards the end of the video because I'm trying to attract an educated, critically minded audience who doesn't just succumb to the usual shock-jockery, but this seems pretty clear to me what's about to happen. Trump made some statements just a few minutes ago that we're going to analyze, and this war is reaching its apotheosis. Either way, the United States is getting way more than it bargained for with this fight. The Iranians fighting tooth and nail to stay alive right now. We are seeing oil tanker after airport, after oil storage facility, after gas facility go up in flames. If you're not paying attention to what's going on in the Middle East, I can tell you this is how I felt today. Okay, and I'm wired right into this. I am locked in, and I'm telling you guys, this situation is far, far worse. We could see the use of nuclear weapons this week, and I'm not even trying to be sensational about it. If they're running out of options and Iran is getting close, and it looks like both sides are really approaching a point of potential peril in which it seems as though they're resorting to their nuclear options. And Iran's nuclear options is to light the Middle East on fire. And in the last 24 hours, I mean, they've just been unleashing hell. And in response to that, the Israelis and the Americans are right in there trying to unleash hell. I'm going to tell you what their plan is, because their plan is to try to undermine the government by creating unrest, which is why they're targeting all the besieged paramilitary forces. They're trying to create the conditions for a civil war to foment. But, I mean, what you're looking at here is there were two tankers, and they were close together. I don't know what they were doing. Were they transferring oil between one another? But a drone hit one of these tankers, or maybe two, and it's up in flames. We've had about 6 of these incidents. Actually, no, that was 6 before this incident. So probably about 8 of these incidents within the last 24 hours, be it cargo ships, oil tankers. So, I mean, this situation is just out of control, okay? So the Navy is refusing to do escorts in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is now threatening the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is another strait. This is an oil refinery that was on fire in Oman, who, if you recall, the mediator attempted to broker a deal, and this was one of the guys that informed Ray McGovern, the former CIA analyst we had on the show the day the war started, who said, oh yeah, the war's not going to happen, and I bet him $2, and I still haven't got my $2, Ray, but we'll talk in the future. Anyways, the mediator is now getting hit, okay? So this situation is just spiraling out of control. I mean, take a look at this. This is that same facility. Actually, no, this is a different facility, I think. It might be. I can't even keep track anymore of what's going on. This is in Oman, and so, I mean, you know, here's another shot of that.
It's on
Because we're
fire.
seeing, you know, ships.
Oh, Trump
getting
loves to
hit
use that
all day.
expression. It's
UKMTO
on fire.
summary. So this is the Organization of Maritime Trade. What do you call it? They basically oversee all the incidents that occurred. This guy had to be evacuated from his ship
It's
today.
time to
And so the
enlist.
Strait of Hormuz is open, according to Chris Wright. Remember when he said, oh yeah, just yesterday, the Strait of Hormuz is open. This is the detonation of what looks to be a Moab. I'm thinking it was a Moab. It could have been a massive ordnance penetrator. But people are saying it's a nuke. It's not a nuke. Trust me, when they use a nuke, the Iranians will let you know about it, okay?
But Iran doesn't have any. They don't need
I
them.
messaged my buddy Steve Syros. He is the owner of the freeze-dry wholesale company who make various types of freeze-dried cuisine for the military. And I asked him, like, is this your stuff they were using? Because apparently Pete Hegseth, Defense Department, blew $22 million on steak and lobster in a single month, getting all the troops ready to fight a war. And he's like, yeah, probably is. So we've done plenty of videos with Steve over at Freeze Dry Wholesale, and I cannot say better things about a company, man. Like, the guy is just salt of the earth type person. You know, the type of business you want to support. High quality foods, and I mean food right now, the price of food, if the price of oil goes up, these things are tightly correlated. And so you're going to have, you know,
hyperinflation
inputs.
That'll bring in, you know what?
The other
It's coming.
petrochemical-based stuff that comes out of the Middle East, which is now in a bottleneck. I mean, we are going to see the price of food skyrocket again, which seems insane. But, you know, had you purchased freeze-dried food years ago, when the price is half of what it is now, I mean, that in and itself would have probably beat the markets. Never mind, you know, just retaining its value. So, you know, food is a great hedge, and eventually they're going to have to replenish their supplies. And so when the government starts putting in these big orders, because now they're going to be going into a big ground campaign, as I'm going to elucidate today, well, that's when they're going to really put pressure on the food supply, because you're going to have to feed all those troops. And so we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. So just, you know, buckle up, man, because things are not looking good. Yesterday, I told you that they're probably going to mine the Strait of Hormuz, or that was the buzz. And then about an hour after I released that video, multiple news agencies, from Reuters to CNN, and maybe it's just disinformation, maybe it's psychological warfare, who knows, but they both came out and they said that there had been between 10 to 12 mines placed in the Strait of Hormuz. So for perspective, as I told you yesterday, well, it's 30 miles at the narrowest point. Only about 2 miles, apparently, are actually used for the transit of vessels. 1 mile of width going in the east to west direction, and another mile of width going in the west to east, or east to west. You get the point. And so the diameter is about a mile. So if you were to put one of these mines every 150 meters in the lane that is exiting, because that's really the lane you care about. Now, would they be respecting these lanes in these types of conditions? I don't know. I would presume so. Force of habit, just like how a lot of people will get trapped in the cities on a busy highway when SHTF is about to happen, because they've been so conditioned to stay on the side of the road and not go into incoming traffic when there ain't nobody coming into the city and you have an open highway right there. We've all seen, you know, the Walking Dead apocalypse type movies where people make that mistake. So mine every 150 meters, well, you might be saying, well, that's a lot of space. Well, when you're talking about a very large crude carrier, which is 60 meters wide, the odds of hitting one, if you put them perpendicular to the pathway,
hey, Titanic hit iceberg, right?
You put 20 mines in there, perpendicular to the strait, and you're talking like pretty much a guaranteed hit of anything that goes through there. And all you need is one hit, and that is enough psychological warfare to prevent any ship from going in there again until the U.S. military goes in. Now, there's a possibility that one was already hit, but I think it was a naval drone. It was this ship right here. Let me see if I can find it for you, because there was the bottom of it was damaged.
If one doesn't get you, the other does.
I just showed it to you. Yeah, right here. So you can see this. So they're using these unmanned kamikaze naval drones. So clearly it hit the front of the ship, and that basically put it out of commission. So those guys had to be evacuated. Even if it doesn't sink the ship, it still puts it out of commission. And I mean, they ain't messing around. I mean, you know, I've been telling you guys that Trump's full of shit for a long, long time, but now I'm more than ever convinced of that. I've been thoroughly vindicated by anybody who isn't completely in a state of denial and digging their heels in that cognitive dissonant way that people typically do at times like these. Okay.
So, like everything else, though, well, we could have told you that he's full of shit, that he's so full of shit, right? But there's more, right? Another one, you know, again, reporting on the same thing. And this happens to be a Jake. False flag might be coming to California as he looks through the bullshit as well. Yeah, this is a straight up Jake who's also reporting, right? You know, wonder if he knows he's in his way, but nonetheless, though, he's reporting.
This this video is about to get very surgical. Everybody a thug till them lights pull up. And everybody got a gun until ice pull up.
So his name is Jalabi Bunkus, I believe.
We've been breaking down propaganda. We've been trying to see, okay, where is this propaganda coming from? Who is it connected to? Why is it coming out at this time? What's the goal? And that's what we've been doing in terms of looking at it through the lens of hip-hop, right? All of that should have been able to prepare us, right, for what we're about to see coming for the next months or years or whatever is coming. Because even the tools like manufacturing consent, right, we can use those tools right now to break down what we're seeing in the news today, okay? They just announced that Iran might be plotting a revenge terror attack on California with army of drones, right? And this is coming directly from the FBI, right? This is right after we found out everything the FBI has been lying about, has been doing, withholding the cures to disease, all types of crazy stuff, right? Just to put that out there. And the funny thing is, right, this is right around the time where the people of America are not aligned with a war with Iran, right? The people in America are not on the same page with the people who want to push a war on Iran. I would argue, from my perspective, even the supporters of the current administration in office are not in support of this war. So you have the majority of Americans, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of their skin, regardless of whatever, who are against this war. So you can't just go do what you want to do without getting the approval of the American citizens, because then you're asking for turmoil and you're asking for potential chaos while trying to handle these things. So
yeah, he's right.
One thing we talked about in an old video of mine, right, when we looked at Noam Chomsky and manufactured consent from the perspective of how Drake and OVO and anybody associated with OVO, right, the academics, etc., are pushing propaganda in order to spread a narrative and create a boogeyman, right? So somebody to fear.
Yep, like ISIS was the old one.
They create the conglomerate of the news outlets, which has transcended beyond, today is beyond the legacy media, you feel what I'm saying? But people still have the legitimacy or believe in the legitimacy of legacy media because, you know, it looks all professional and shit. But if you apply what they do, right, to what the U.S. government is doing now, you can see, right, the parallels. So let's just look into this real quick, okay, of this revenge terror attack that's supposed to be coming directly from Iran. That in reality is just a warning, right? It's just a warning, a precaution, but the media is spinning it as if it's something that is to come. There's a lot of fear-mongering with how to present this. The FBI has issued an urgent warning to cops across California of a potential Iranian drone strike on the Golden State. Tehran was looking at deploy unmanned aircraft on the region as the country reels after the U.S. wiped out its supreme leader last month, right? California has the highest concentration of Iranian descendants in the U.S., up to 500,000, but it's not clear if that is why the state will be targeted. We recently acquired information, and I feel like even this little statement right here, in my perspective, is to create that civil distrust. And when you talk about all the conversation around illegal immigrants, that potentially leads to sleeper cells being activated, and automatically people are going to assume and align those sleeper cells with Iranian Americans, the same way that people used to align terrorism with, you know, the Middle East and anybody who looked like they were from the Middle East. We got movies, we got comedy specials, we got all these different things to create this propaganda against that in general. So here it says, we recently acquired information that as of early February 2026, Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles from an unidentified vessel off the course of the United States homeland, specifically against unspecified targets in California in the event that the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran. So essentially what they're saying is that if we ever went to go attack Iran, Iran had it ready to go, that they was going to get busy on California. That's pretty much what they're saying, okay? It says, we have no additional information on the timing, method, target, or perpetrators of this alleged attack. Of course not. The alert was sent to police departments across the region, but it does not make it clear where specifically could be targeted. The FBI declined to comment when approached by the Post. Now, the interesting thing is, I got this article pulled up from 2002 on Bush and 9/11. And the irony is that they say in this article, right, let me see if I can find it real quick. First it says, Bush was told in the months before the September 11 attacks that Osama bin Laden's terrorist network might hijack U.S. passenger planes.
Yeah, it was also in a Prince song, too, that they're going to bomb.
But not the American public. Now, there's not much of a difference between this and this. The only difference is the American public is getting the information now. Now, is the American public getting the information because they want the American public to know, right? Like, or is there more of
It's a
an
psyop,
underlying
you
agenda
know.
going on here, to where maybe there's a fear that the information gets out, but on top of that, maybe to create that division within the people of California and really the people of America, and amplify the narrative around ICE and what ICE is doing, right? Because in reality, if we can make you believe that there are sleeper cells in the country, which I'm not saying there isn't, whatever, I'm just giving you perspective. If we can make you believe that there's sleeper cells, you will only align the people who align with your perspective of what a sleeper cell could be, which would be immigrants, associated with the country that we are essentially at war with right now, or
Yep.
about to go into full war with. You know what I'm saying?
And there are a lot of Iranians here. Definitely in Vacaville, where I grew up, man. You know, I used to buy a lot from them. In fact, Channel 26 out of San Francisco used to, you know, and they probably still do, used to show Iranian TV. You know, and you could watch that in the morning, like 0700 hours. They would actually have Iranian TV because, again, and a lot of 7-Elevens, etc., you know, a lot of liquor stores, etc. They there's a lot of them there, you know, and so yeah, it's true that there's a lot of Iranian citizens in California, but man, these I've done quite a bit of business with them, and again I used to watch the Iranian TV because it was always interesting to watch. I even caught a movie years ago called From Karka to Riyan. And it was on the AFTAB network, and it was hosted over TV 26 in San Francisco, and it actually showed, it's a movie about a guy who comes back from the war, the Gulf War, 8 years, the Iran-Iraq War, and he's being treated in Germany. His name is Saeed, and, you know, he was blind, you know, okay, you know, because of what he suffered during the chemical weapons that Saddam did use against Iran. I mean, if anybody's against chemical weapons, it'd be Iran, but nonetheless so. And ultimately, they later found out that he's got leukemia, you know, caused from the exposure to the chemical weapons, and he dies a painful, bitter death, similar to the way that my Pomeranian died. I believe that they are using chemical weapon agents in what they spray on plants and everything else. Esau's going all out. You got the chemtrails, and you got these mRNAs he puts in food. But I digress. Nonetheless, though, they're doing everything they can to ramp this up. But drones are being used. Make no mistake about it. And, of course, we know we're being lied to. So, yeah, that's a false flag alert out there. You know, that they may actually pull one off. But we're not fooled. We are definitely aware of this devil's schemes. Iranian drone attack that killed 6 U.S. troops was worse than the U.S. military revealed. So they're now coming out and admitting that, okay, it's a lot worse than it was. Iranian drone attack that may hit a makeshift U.S. military operations center in the port of Kuwait on March 1st killed at least 6 troops, but is much worse than the Pentagon revealed. And CBS claims to have the report. We know that there was way, way more, but they're now just coming out with some of it. Oh yeah, there may be more casualties. But here's some of the things, the ones that are injured, right? Sources told CBS that dozens of U.S. service members suffered injuries, including brain trauma, sharp nail wounds, burns, and at least one soldier may need amputation. As of Tuesday night, more than 30 U.S. troops are still downplaying the numbers. There's way, way more. And remember, this happened in just one retaliatory strike. Remember Soleimani that was killed in 2020? And then they did a retaliation against the U.S. base there. Same thing. The ones that suffered injuries included brain trauma, sharp nail wounds, and burns. So, like everything else, Pentagon has not disclosed all the injuries and only admitted on Tuesday that at least 140 soldiers may have been injured. Yeah, we know that they've been downplaying this, because if they really knew, and I think a lot of people do know because they watch the alternative media. And so here's Bunker Boy once again. Trump regime officials buying doomsday bunkers as U.S. troops told Iran war is to bring about Armageddon. Yeah, I remember Pete Higgs says, the fucking douche telling him that. You know, he spends all that money on his lobster and steak. Yeah, keep eating it up, fat boy. You're going to fucking, if you survive this and you go hide out in your bunker, well, you're just more fun for us. So we're going to torment you. We're going to do everything we can to you. As the U.S. war against Iran intensifies, reports say top regime officials and Donald Trump's administration are quietly prepared for the worst. According to reports cited by the New Republic, at least 2 members of Trump's cabinet purchased bomb-proof bunkers from a Texas company that builds luxury survival shelters. And there are tons of videos showing you how luxurious they are. You know, don't think of that cabin looking, man. Think of something really, really nice. But we're going to dig them up, and we're going to enslave them, because that's what's coming. Esau's going into slavery. Those that survive World War III are going to be rounded up and are going to go into slavery. So you just go ahead and dig yourself a hole, bunker boy. Iran threatens to target regional ports if its ports are attacked. Okay, and you're seeing that. You know, this was conducted on March 2nd. Again, you know, they're saying, look, man, you keep on attacking our reserves, we're going to attack your reserves. And they already said the Strait of Hormuz is closed, but you're still trying to send vessels through there. I mean, you are a legitimate target. Iran's armed forces have targeted target ports across the region when Iranian ports came under attack during the conflict with the Israeli state and the U.S. State television reported on Wednesday. According to the broadcaster, an unnamed spokesman of the armed forces said, if our ports and docks are threatened, then all ports and docks in the region will become legitimate targets for us. The spokesperson warned that the armed forces would carry out operations more severe than what we have done so far if Iranian ports were attacked. So they choose what they do. They choose what they do. Yeah, so any retaliation is because they brought it upon themselves. So like everything else though, you're still being gaslit, and just another video of somebody else speaking out that's just seeing it for what it is. So even he knows that they are fucked, that America is fucked. Reminds me of, you know, you get to the bigger Great Millstone camps, and we told you for a long time, we've been holding that sign up, because you've seen all our signs that we hold up, especially in LA and New York camps, the very large ones, that America is fucked. And it shows the missiles coming down against Babylon, right? That America is fucked. Well, this is what he's saying, because like everything else, you know, he's saying Trump is full of shit. They're all knowing how fucking full of shit Trump really is.
This is your World War III updates. We're being lied to about the Iran war. It is not ending. It is only just beginning.
Yep.
Donald Trump is a pathological liar. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nate, all politicians are liars, and you are correct. Most of them pathologically so. But there's something unique about Donald Trump in that the market persistently hangs on every single word this guy says, no matter how extensive his track record.
Yep, exactly. No matter how extensive his track record actually is. That seemed to have cut off in 33 seconds. So, so you know, that just, you know, being overly full of shit. I didn't know it was only a 33-second video, but, you know, they know how full of shit he is, and that, you know, but like everything else, though, you know, because he's in total denial of this. Everybody knows that this has already happened, that it is a U.S. Tomahawk cruise missile, and there's even CBS footage showing that it's a U.S. Tomahawk cruise missile. Probe finds U.S. fault in deadly Iran school strike. Preliminary findings suggest a human rather than an AI error in relaying an outdated targeting info. So they tried to downplay it and say that, oh, that was an AI thing. No, it wasn't. It wasn't an AI error. And it wasn't an error at all. They deliberately did it. Ongoing military inquiry has found the U.S. preliminary responsible for deadly Tomahawk missile strike on Iranian elementary school that killed at least 175 people, most of them children, New York Times has reported. So like everything else though, they've been found to be liars. Investigators believe officers at U.S. Central Command relayed an outdated targeting data from the Defense Intelligence Agency. Wow, what a cover-up. What a lie. Oh, okay, so it was outdated, so that makes it okay. That still classified the school building as part of a military compound. Oh boy! Talk about the bullshit. Even though it has been converted into a school over a decade ago. So that's what they're going to say. It's outdated information. Talk about being full of shit. Trump says he's unaware of evidence indicating U.S. bombed girls' school in Iran. 4 days after the president insisted that Iran targeted the school, killing mostly children. You know, because he tried to say that Iran did it, and then they found out it was a U.S. Tomahawk cruise missile. Because you got to remember, Iran uses Fatah 2 missiles, and you'll know it's from Iran. 4 days after U.S. President Trump put the blame against Iran for the bombing of a school school in Minhab, he told reporters he's unaware of the mounting evidence that it was the result of a U.S. strike. At least 160 people died in that airstrike. Most were children, but then you went after the first responders and you killed them too. That's not an AI error. A new reporter says military investigation found it was the United States that struck the school. Reporter told the president on Wednesday as he took questions outside the White House, she repeated her statement a second time when he didn't appear to hear it and asked him to respond. I don't know, Trump said. Bullshit. You fucking know. So like everything else though, you know, as RT goes into, you know, we question more. So he's now trying to say that other countries may have gotten a U.S. missile. I mean, this is how far he'll go to cover this up.
Donald Trump has denied U.S. involvement in the bombing of an Iranian primary school, killing 175 people, mostly children. The U.S. president maintains many countries have gotten their hands on the Tomahawk cruise missiles, including Tehran.
Tomahawks are used by others, as you know. Numerous other nations have Tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
As a reminder, a local news site published a video said to show a U.S. Tomahawk missile striking the school during the deadly attack.
Yep, that's right there.
Well, debris from the site gathered by government investigators shows the missile was American-made. It's widely acknowledged that Israel and Iran do not possess Tomahawk long-range weapons in their arsenals. Well, despite Trump's claims, only 4 countries have officially bought missiles from Washington. The UK has bought 200-plus missiles since 1995, upgrading them from 2022. In recent years, the UK was joined by Australia, Japan, and the Netherlands, who made deals to order hundreds of Tomahawks. All right, well, let's discuss this now live with Michael Maloof, former Pentagon Senior Security Policy.
Hey, he's really good, Michael Maloof.
So Donald Trump says this attack could be perpetrated by any other country which owns Tomahawks. So what are your thoughts on who could be the perpetrator here?
Well, I think Trump is in denial. However, it's very clear that it came from the United States. As you point out, just those 4 countries outside the United States possess Tomahawks. It's my understanding that it was from U.S. Ships, and that it was a double tap, or at least 2. One came down, hit the school. The children, as I understand it, were trying to be rushed into the surviving students into another part that was not bombed, and then the second one came down and killed the remaining children and staff. So this is a very terrible thing, and Trump is just in denial, and he needs to fess up to it. But and in so admitting, it's really going to create an outrage around the world, I think, because children should not have been implicated in this. That said, the school was located near some IRGC facilities, and there's been overhead to show a juxtaposition of the school to these IRGC facilities, and they were close enough. In one report that I've heard is that these were children from IRGC members who were deployed at those facilities. So this is a terrible situation all around, and in the United States it needs to be very, very careful, and shouldn't even be bombing in the first place. Let's start there. but civilians should be off limits.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, Trump says the incident is being investigated and that he is ready to accept the results, whatever that would be. But how likely do you think that the investigation will show other results than it being a U.S. missile?
I think it's going to be difficult. I mean, just those other 4 countries are the ones who have it. Certainly, Iran doesn't have one, and it's only a NATO country. Australia is a friend of NATO, but and Japan are the only 2 non-NATOs that don't have them. But the other countries, Netherlands and UK are NATO, and the other 2 countries are all close U.S. allies and are nowhere near Iran. So it's hard for Trump to, with a straight face, to say that many other countries have them when they don't. And the atomics are very controlled. They're very expensive and and so their production is only going to go to those countries that have an urgent need for them, and they're very expensive, by the way, each one.
All right, we're going to leave it there for now. Michael Maloof, former Pentagon Senior Security Policy Analyst. Michael, thank you.
So there it is, and irrefutable evidence. But like everything else, though, there's more going on, right? Because these places really are on fire now. Dozens killed in Iran. Iraq strikes as Pezeshkian outlines conditions for end to war. Missiles hit Gulf cities. So he's proposing an end to the war, meaning ending the Zionist entity's ability, as well as the U.S. ability, which includes all those bases, etc., that they immediately withdraw everything from there, and get out, so they can never threaten to attack Iran again. Would be these are the outlines that Iran has proposed. You think Trump's going to agree to that? Absolutely not. Dozens of people killed in airstrikes on Tehran and western Iraq, while Iranian strikes Gulf states have fueled fears about oil prices. Well, like everything else, though, whatever happens to them, they're retaliating for it, and it's all fair game. Iran's president outlined 3 conditions to end the ongoing war as drone strikes on Thursday killed at least 10 people in the country, while Iranian forces continued to target Gulf countries. Pezeshkian said the conditions were that Tehran's legitimate rights must be recognized, reparations must be paid. Yeah, that's another thing. They got to pay for what they destroyed, and assurance is given against any further aggression. This comes after, or as, Iran said that joint U.S.-Israeli strikes started in late February, targeting healthcare facilities and hospitals. Absolutely, that's exactly what they've done. So, like everything else, since the start of the war, Iran has targeted American bases in West Asia in retaliation, but has also hit some civilian infrastructure in Gulf states. I mean, it is the spoils of war. Also in Iraq, 27 members of Iraq's pro-Iran Popular Mobilization Forces militia group were killed and another 63 wounded in airstrikes. So, terrorism against Iraq, which the U.S. is definitely guilty of, believed to be by the U.S. and Israel, targeting a brigade in Anbar province located near the Syrian border. See, they're attacking Iraq too, The fallout of the war has prompted many banks and other financial organizations to temporarily halt operations in the Gulf, with the latest being Citi Bank in the United Arab Emirates, which stated it will close its branches from 12 to the 14th March, citing precautionary measures. So there you go. Here we go. Here's what you see happening as the beginning of it. Banks shutting down. See, that could usher things in too. You see how this is all connected, right? That they will usher that in very soon. And there is talks about martial law coming too. So, Jimmy Dore's breaking down some more, as he's gotten some footage of Scott Ritter, who was on RT the other day. So we'll play some of that. There are rumors going out that King Bibi was killed in the retaliatory attacks, but there's also reports that he fled the country. How nice of him. His people, Amalek, is now just fucking dying right and left because of a war he started. I mean, if they don't want to oust him, I don't know if they don't, because you don't get any footage from the Israeli state anyways, very little, but it's being obliterated, and like everything else, though, the fallout is great. So, anybody hosting King Bibi, which could only be Germany if he's hiding out in Germany, pretty much so. If he returns to the Israeli state, he's been marked for death, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they put him to death, the Israelis themselves, because he stuck his tail between his legs and he ran and left them to die. What kind of fucking leader does that? Ayatollah Khamenei, I'm just saying, Ayatollah Khamenei knew he could have left that day that he was killed. But he did not leave. He stayed because he felt the people of Tehran, if they don't get to leave, why should I? So he stayed there. So you see that why he's being martyred. You think that King Baby's going to stay there when he knows that he's got a target on his head? No, he's a fucking chicken shit. He wants everybody else to fight his war, and people don't want to fight his war. Not even the Israelis themselves that are stuck in them cities, and they're being bombarded and they're being hit hard. But that won't be talked about too much. But nonetheless, though, rumors have been going around that King Bibi is dead. But it's most likely that he's hiding. But his brother was killed, and that other piece of shit, Kotz, was killed.
Last night, the Iranians struck the home of Benjamin Netanyahu. They killed his brother. They struck the home of Ben Gvir. He is seriously wounded, may not survive. Iran is going to start to take out the totality of Israel's leadership. This is the reality of this conflict. Israel played the regime change game. It's going to be the Israelis that are going to be paying the highest price. The Iranians are no longer wearing kid gloves.
Yeah.
I guess the good news is Trump is saying that the war is almost over. I think he's lying. I think what has happened is that the United States is going to lose this war. Here's some good news. The good news is that this war may be over faster than we expected because Iran is doing so well against the United States, and all the Gulf Coast states are now realize that they're not really the allies of the United States, that Israel is the only ally, because the United States is not defending them. Okay, here we go.
I saw a video this morning, real video, not CNN, though they have been better, but real video of Israel. They are getting absolutely pummeled.
That was to be my next question. How badly is Israel getting pummeled? And where is Netanyahu?
I think he's on a plane 90% of the time. He's flying around the Mediterranean. I understood he was on a private jet coming into Mar-a-Lago to talk to Trump. I don't know if that's true or not, but my source is pretty good. He's staying out in Frey as best he can because he knows that he is number one target.
How badly are the Iranians damaging Tel Aviv?
Very badly, very badly. And it is relentless. It's not a fuselage. It's relentless. And increasingly, and in the latter stages of this 15-minute video, you could see that fewer and fewer air defense missiles were going up. And at the end of it, in the last 60 seconds, which is a long time, Judge, if you're under fire, there were no Israeli missiles going up. The Iranian missiles were just getting in.
Well,
it's all being live now, of course. You can't get this out. You can't even get it out of Al Jazeera or Al Arabiya. They're not allowed to film this sort of thing because he's got a wrapped down tight ban on anybody coming in there and making film other than his own propaganda.
So that's the irony, is that CNN is allowed to go into Iran and report whatever they want to report, whereas no foreign journalists are allowed inside of Israel. And if they are, they're heavily censored. And CNN acquiesces to that censorship. They don't even tell you about it, but they go along with it. But that's great news to hear. How do you put a positive spin on your entire country being turned into sand again? I wonder, hey, I think Israel's new terrorism slogan is going to be, hey, come to Israel. Nothing blocking your view of the ocean anymore. How about that? No more annoying buildings are in the way. It's
you have to laugh at them, right?
Paradise. Come to Israel. I think that's it. So here, and also, here's Scott Ritter on Netanyahu's home got bombed, and they killed his brother. But unlike the Ayatollah in Iran...
Jeb Netanyahu?
Unlike the Ayatollah in Iran, he didn't go to a bunker. He wanted to be just as vulnerable as the rest of his people, and they killed him. So Netanyahu, not to say...
And he's pointed out, just like we are.
He's actually flying around 24/7, so he can't be hit. Or he goes to Munich, he goes to Germany, or he goes to...
Yeah, who's the coward?
So let's listen. Here's what Scott Ritter has to say.
The Iranians are showing an ability to get intelligence information inputs in the morning and strike in the afternoon with deadly effect. And also, they're starting to expand their target deck. Remember, they didn't invent the concept of regime change. That was Israel on day one, killing Ali Khamenei. Last night, the Iranians struck the home of Benjamin Netanyahu. They killed his brother. They struck the home of Ben Gvir. He is seriously wounded, may not survive. Iran is going to start to take out the totality of Israel's leadership. This is the reality of this conflict. Israel played the regime change game. It's going to be the Israelis that are going to be paying the highest price. The Iranians are no longer wearing kid gloves. Often they're coming in bare knuckle.
They're reporting it. This is interesting. I looked it up as soon as you said it. The BBC is reporting it as Ben Gvir was in a car accident last night. Does that surprise you?
They can report it any way they want. We know that his home is on fire, so maybe he crashed his car into his house.
So Ben Gvir was in a car accident. First of all, the good news is they got Benjamin Netanyahu's house finally. Ben Gvir was in a car accident? You mean to tell me Iran's out of missiles and they're lobbing cars at Israel now? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I get that. Must have been one hell of an accurate driver. I remember. Or maybe they have the advanced Waze technology. Maybe Waze is going to show you how to launch a car now. And how to
Wait, Jimmy, hold on. Reuters says Israeli Minister Ben Gvir slightly hurt in car accident. I swear to God.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure he's going to be sticking around for another volley of hypersonic missiles.
Injured lightly. That's another headline.
Injured lightly.
Heard that ever
I've never seen a headline like that. Injured lightly.
Why would what? What?
So
What?
that is called pro-war propaganda. That's been the first casualty in war is the truth. Wow, wow.
I heard he was just lightly injured in it because he ran a red light. He
Yeah.
admit he ran a red light.
Well, it's weird that he put seatbelts and airbags in his entire house now. Isn't that weird? I wouldn't be surprised if we see a YouTube video of Benjamin Netanyahu trying to sneak into Dubai with an F Israel T-shirt on.
He's gonna be dressed like an Orthodox priest.
Yeah.
Those real wizardy looking Dracula Catholics. He's gonna have like a big wooden cross.
Hello, I am Salam something or other. And this is my wife, Jeffrey Epstein. Now let us in. We'll be right back with more of this story.
Well, you got to remember, Jimmy Dore is a comedy, but so was George Carlin. He was a comedian, so you have to laugh at some of this stuff, but nonetheless, though, definitely leadership's being taken out in the Israeli state. And Tucker Carlson went further on to say that, look, how can you fucking support this? Because even Tucker Carlson has met the prophets of Great Millstone as well. So he actually knows who we are, by the way. But even he's saying this in his own words. The U.S. is not worth fighting for if it targeted an Iranian school. America should behave with honor and admit mistakes whenever it is wrong, the journalist has claimed. Well, see, that's just it, though, is that Donald Trump, the king of Babylon that everybody worships, will never admit to anything. So, do you think the Edomites are? Just saying. The United States is not worth fighting for. If it carried out the bombing of an Iranian school but refuses to admit responsibility, Tucker Carlson said, speaking on his YouTube broadcast on Tuesday. Carlson insisted that the country cannot claim the moral high ground if it avoids acknowledging civilian casualties. He was referring to the strike against a school in the southern Iranian city of Minab. On the 28th of February, the first day of the large-scale U.S.-Israeli terror attacks, Iranian reports said more than 160 people were killed. Several investigators by American media outlets suggested the strike involved the U.S. Tomahawk cruise missile, but the King of Babylon has rejected the allegations suggested that Iran itself may have been responsible. Carlson said the United States must behave with honor if it wants to maintain moral credibility, adding that if the schoolgirls were killed accidentally, Washington should publicly acknowledge it rather than deny the involvement. So like everything else, though, they have to go to the other thing and say, it was an accident, it was an old intel. But he's calling it out. And he's got a lot of followers. There's a lot of people that left Fox News to watch Tucker Carlson after he got fired last year. Israeli attacks central Beirut as death toll rises to 570. So the Israeli state has also been, terrorizing the people of Beirut because, of course, Hezbollah is the only actual military that they have that's not a puppet to the Israeli state or their demands, and they reject Balak, because that piece of shit has, done nothing to protect or ensure the safety. The Israeli state continues to violate the so-called ceasefire. Well, you can say that ceasefire is over with. And like everything else, Hezbollah had to surrender everything. Well, like everything else, though, you know, that if Hezbollah had surrendered, there would be no defense for Lebanon. Because guess what? The new puppet government that's in Syria is also targeting Hezbollah. So you can see why Damascus will get destroyed in a day. Other deadly strikes reported in the Babak district of eastern Lebanon in multiple areas of southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Health Ministry updated the death toll since the Israeli terrorist war began, with 570 Lebanese killed in the last week and a half, which includes 439 men, 45 women, and 86 children. They also noted that at least 14 healthcare workers were also slain in the attacks. Official number of registered displaced people in Lebanon is now 780,000 since the Israeli terror attacks. And like everything else, though, you know, we know that Trump, you know, the king of Babylon, I believe him to be Amalek. I don't just think he's Nero. I also believe him to be Amalek. He's married to Lara Trump, or is that her name? He's married to her, you know, so she's Amalek. So, you know, wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he's Amalek too. Most certainly, though, you know, he's definitely somebody they can manipulate with the Epstein files. You know, King Bibi and him going back and forth. You know, if he's wanted by the International Criminal Court, well, you're also wanted for the Epstein files. So they're, you know, bullying each other back and forth. But pretty much so, you know, as long as he's on the dick of King Bibi, you know, those Epstein files will always be redacted. You can see where this is going, right? You know, a lot of butt fuckers, child molesters in power. And they're being found out.
Special military operation that just so happens to be fanning out all over the Middle East, threatening to fan out all over the world. And at this point, I think it's pretty safe to say things are not going the way that Donald Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu, his boss man, had planned. Not at all. And for anybody who's interested in just doing a couple of minutes of research on their own, you will find the extensive reporting out there showing that Iranian missiles have completely depleted Israeli air defense systems, and now they are absolutely pummeling Israeli territory. And after initially trying to diminish American casualties, the Trump administration now just admits that more than 150 American troops have been wounded in Iranian strikes. Now, they're still claiming that 7 Americans have been killed thus far. Complete and total bullshit. Total lie. And at the same time, they're telling us to expect that number to grow, because already there are far more than 7 Americans dead. The Trump administration and their media apparatus is lying to you. But the odds are here that just as Israel is taking its losses, so is America. And we're about to start taking a lot more, and on a grand scale, because this war is not going to stop. America is wed to this conflict where we are clearing the way for a greater Israel. A war that our people didn't ask for, a war that our people by extra majority margins say that they don't want. They are diametrically opposed to continuing war efforts in the Middle East. And this is a war that, according to active members of the United States government, came to fruition because Benjamin Netanyahu wanted it. And when it comes to this Trump administration, Benjamin Netanyahu gets what he wants. Senator Chris Murphy explained all of this during a recent interview.
What is left? Why are we at war with Iran?
Great question. Yeah, great question. I mean, the simplest explanation, might be the one that they gave 24 hours in, that they've kind of tried to backtrack since then, which is that Israel made us do it. That Bibi decided on this timeline. Netanyahu decided he wanted to attack. And he convinced Trump to join him by scaring Trump into believing that U.S. assets in the region would be at risk, and so Trump was better off just joining Netanyahu. I hope that isn't the full explanation, but you're right. As we are now hearing that the nuclear program is not part of their targeting campaign, as we're now more confident that even harder line leadership is taking hold, as the Strait of Hormuz is still being shut down, even as we get their Navy, what's left as the explanation? It might just be that Israel forced our hand, and how weak does that make the United States look? How weak are we if our allies can force us into wars of choice that are bad for U.S. national security interests?
Okay, so we already knew that. The Trump administration has admitted this multiple times now, but it's good to hear it again and again and again because it's true. And it's important that as more Americans are committed to this war and as ground operations begin to take shape, that everyone remember who got us into this mess in the first place. It's important that everyone remember who's responsible for this ritual sacrifice of more Americans in the Middle East. It's Donald Trump, the so-called peace president who from the very first day of this war has been responsible for hideous atrocities. Donald Trump is waging war like an Israeli because effectively that's what he is.
Yeah, he said it.
United States military
he just said that he's an Israeli.
Amalek. Girls right alongside their teachers.
We all know what happened. But still, the Trump administration is trying to cover it up and gaslight people who want legitimate answers.
So why did President Trump say yesterday that Iran may have Tomahawk missiles when there are only 3 other U.S. allies plus the U.S. that have those missiles? And therefore,
look, again, as the president said yesterday, he will accept the conclusion of this investigation by the Department of War. I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media about who may be responsible for this. We're not going to get ahead of the Department of War and the conclusion of that investigation. To share his opinion.
Keep sucking his cock.
He has said he'll accept.
You're a child molester too.
And frankly, we're not going to be harassed by the New York Times, who's been putting out a lot of articles on this, making claims that have just not been verified by the Department of War, to quickly wrap up this investigation because the New York Times is calling on us to do so.
Yeah, you're a Gillian Maxwell.
That's reassuring. I guess I was probably just, getting ahead of myself, overreacting. I was panicking a little bit. But there, that should answer your question. Trump said he will accept the conclusion of the investigation being led by the Department of War. So can we move on? Why do you people keep coming in this room every day, pestering me and bothering me with this nonsense about dead kids and double taps? I mean, come on, can we move on? The people that Donald Trump has tasked with investigating this happen to be the very same people that launched the attack that killed these kids in the first place, but never mind that. Caroline Leavitt is the propagandist that absolutely none of us asked for. This woman goes on TV every single day lying and twisting reality in service of her paymasters. Listen to what she said there. Donald Trump has the right to say whatever he wants about double-tapping little kids. As if anyone was questioning his right to do or say anything, but these people just love turning themselves into the perpetual victims. Just like their Israeli bosses. The victims are the little girls that they blew up in their Tomahawk strike that they are now lying about, not the members of this occupied government laundering millions and billions of dollars through the military-industrial complex contracts that they're cutting through this illegal war. And when they're not double-tapping little girls, they're bombing little boys. It hasn't gotten as much press, but they hit a boys' school as well. And the oil refineries that are now raining down oil on the heads of civilians. And the water facility that provides running water for tens of millions of Iranians. But never mind that, because now they're just carpet bombing Tehran. But look, the Trump administration's war crimes being carried out on behalf of Israel don't stop with civilians. They're also committing war crimes against the Iranian military, like they did when the United States lured an Iranian ship into the Indian Ocean and then sunk it, leaving the survivors to drown. Just before this war, India held a series of military exercises that they organized in concert with the United States, and they invited Iran to participate in this exercise as well. Well, Iran took them up on their offer, and they sent a ship. So that crew landed in India, and they were paraded around in front of government officials. They shook hands with members of the Indian military and other militaries from around the world, but not from the United States, because at the last minute, the United States pulled out of that exercise, and now we know why. Because just days after those events in India concluded, the war began, and American submarines were positioned in the Indian Ocean, lying in wait for that Iranian ship to come sailing back through, and then they sunk it. This ship wasn't launching some kind of an attack. It wasn't being sailed into battle. For the most part, it was actually unarmed. So the United States could have captured that ship and its entire crew. But according to Donald Trump, that's just not as fun as sinking it.
The Navy is gone. It's all lying at the bottom of the ocean. 46 ships. Can you believe it?
Yeah, he loves it.
I said, what quality of ship? Excellent, sir. Top of the line. I said, why did we just capture the ship? We're going to use it. Why did we sink them? He said, it's more fun to sink them. I said, they like sinking them better.
It's all just so fun. Are you having fun yet? You know, if war is so fun, then why did you dodge the draft during the Vietnam War? Wouldn't it have been more fun to be there in person? But see, people like Donald Trump, they're not interested in getting their own hands dirty.
Donald Trump drafted
themselves or their family
dodged the draft in Vietnam. He's right about that.
I charge into Iran right now. But instead, people like Donald Trump and, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu, they prefer to sit back, watching the Goyim kill each other, feasting on all of the physical and spiritual destruction that they are responsible for. They love the idea of being responsible for the deaths of hundreds at a time, thousands of the Amalek. Nothing makes them happier. Nothing feeds their inner demon quite like...
Wait, he just called them Amalek. Did you catch that? I caught that. Amalek? Did he say Amalek? Well, let me get a little closer.
...into Iran right now. But instead, people like Donald Trump and, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu, they prefer to sit back, watching the Goyim kill each other, feasting on all of the physical and spiritual destruction that they are responsible for. They love the idea of being responsible for the deaths of hundreds at a time, thousands of the Amalek. Nothing
of Amalek, yep.
Nothing feeds their inner demon quite like death and destruction. And at the rate that things are going, there's going to be a lot more death and destruction in the Middle East and in other parts of the world, a whole lot more.
And so here it is, false flag coming. And, of course, so that way everybody will support ground operations, a ground war against Iran. Iran warns to shed invaders' blood in Persian Gulf if islands are attacked, because Trump has been floating around the idea that he's going to steal their islands. You know, he's going to take their islands from them, you know, which supports their oil. Parliamentary Speaker Ghalib warned that Iran will make the Persian Gulf run with the blood of invaders if the country's islands are attacked. Homeland or death, any aggression against soil of Iranian islands will shatter all restraint. We will abandon all restraint and make the Persian Gulf run with the blood of invaders. He also held U.S. President Trump responsible for the blood of the American soldiers that will be a target, because they are a legitimate target. Donald Trump has been the sole person responsible for all the deaths of children, because he is a child molester, a pedophile just trying to save face. And the people know that. There's enough people out there that know that he's a fucking pedophile, that know about the Epstein files and know that he's hiding it. But you got the other half that are MAGA supporters. The U.S. and Israeli state launched an illegal act of aggression against Iran. Enemies have deliberately targeted Iran's civilian structure, killing at least 1,348 Iranian people in the criminal strikes. Iran began to swiftly retaliate against the criminal aggression by launching barrage of missile and drone attacks against the Israeli-occupied territories, as well as the U.S. terrorist bases in the regional countries. And that's all true. Everything that Iran has done has been in retaliation. Not in aggression, but in retaliation. Iran Army launches drone operation, says radar collapse, making Israeli targets easier to hit. They've already destroyed their... Hey, we already talked about this, right? That they will exhaust all their anti-missiles capabilities, right? And they won't be able to stop it. Iran says its operations against Israeli military infrastructure are becoming easier and more precise after parts of the regime's radar network were destroyed, as new wave of drone attacks hit key bases and security facilities. Army spokesman Brigadier General said the destruction of sections of the enemy's radar infrastructure has significantly improved operational conditions for Iranian forces. Operations are becoming more precise day by day, he told the state TV on Thursday. So like everything else though, they are more and more capable of taking out their targets. And so it leads me to here, where Gog and Magog, you know, making this the Gog-Magog war, the Battle of Armageddon, the mountains of troops. Well, you know, this is a rumor, but it's not going to be a rumor because this is scriptural, that all these troops are going to be deployed where? Russia's sending 8,000 plus Wagner soldiers to reestablish its military bases in Syria and Iraq to support Iran against potential U.S. ground invasion. So before they can even get to Iran, they have to fight the Russians. Gomer and all its troops. Let's go ahead and get that, because this is exciting. But remember, the MOTB has to be mandated before this thing really, you know, starts into the... but we know that World War III is already here. There's no doubt about it. But the MOTB has to be mandated before it fully goes full-on throttle nuclear war. But will we see a ground invasion before the MOTB? Well, it's looking like it. So here we are, you know, troops being deployed in all these places to stop a potential U.S. invasion, a U.S. ground invasion. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 2. And it reads, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief ruler of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Yes, Yahushua and the angels are going to destroy Putin and his armies after Babylon the Great is destroyed and in the midst of World War III. And say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against you, O God, chief ruler of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around and put hooks into your jaws and bring you out, and all your army, horses and horsemen. And that's what's happening. They're coming out. They're starting to fortify themselves. all of them magnificently clothed in full armor, a great horde with buckler and shield, all of them wielding swords. Persia, Cush, and Put, aka Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. These are the places that the Most High is gathering Russia and its forces to come in to protect. Gomer and all its troops, aka Turkey. Bet Garma from the north parts, from the remote parts of the north, and all its troops, many people with you. All these troops are being gathered. We're starting to see the beginning of it. You, Gog, be prepared. Prepare yourself, you and all your hordes that are assembled around you, and be a guard and a lookout for them. Well, we already know that they are already they're providing intelligence, military intelligence on where Iran can hit, but they're going to be even more prepared to protect Iran from any potential ground invasion, and we're starting to see the beginning of that. So like everything else though, you know, keep on striving, man. We're almost done. All they have to do is mandate the MOTB. And there's also a rumor that martial law may be coming in April. So heads up on that. I'll probably do more on that in the next one. Shalom, Barak Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Brakatham, Jehovah elect. Shalom.